Okay, this is a simple tutorial showing how to use the FlexUp contract templates. So let's say that you have a project that is a FlexUp project that has already signed a FlexUp charter, and you are a supplier, like a consultant, who wants to provide services to this client. And they have agreed, or you have agreed with them, that part of your remuneration would be paid in FlexUp credits. So you want to send them a service contract for your product and for your services using the FlexUp model and the FlexUp contract. So you go on the FlexUp website, you click on Documents, and you will find a page which explains the type of documentation that is currently being put online. And you can see here, of course, you can learn more about the FlexUp model. There's technical presentation. There's some frequently asked questions in English or in French. But what you want to go and look at now are the contract. So legal framework. Okay, so I renamed it so it's even more clear. FlexUp legal framework. So you have here contract templates and general conditions. So here it explains, so there's a disclaimer, FlexUp is not a law firm, and these contracts are given to you under the terms of the FlexUp license. You can go directly to the place where the contracts are stored, and you can download them. It contains general conditions and also special conditions for the charter. If you don't already have a charter, this is where you go to create your charter for your project and for any other contract. So here there is an introduction that explains the philosophy, how it works. And then there's a few more details about the FlexUp charter, about investment contracts, and about service contracts. For now, these are the only two types of contracts which have been put online. Other types of contracts will be added progressively. What you need to know is that for any contract, including the charter, you will have the general conditions, which is a PDF document that you can download, but that you cannot modify because these terms are the same for all projects worldwide. And then you have the special conditions, which is a Word document in doc format, docx format. You can download it and you can edit it using Microsoft Word or any other editor that is compatible with docx format. If you don't have Microsoft Word on your computer, you can edit these documents using Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word online, which is free for any user. You don't need to pay. So you can use the online version of Microsoft Word to edit this document. But I think you can also probably edit it using Google Docs or other similar software. So you can download these templates. You can fill in the required fields. There's a few things you can modify. And then there's a large part of the document which you should not modify. And if you do modify them, then you need to say it. You need to say that this template has been modified. But generally, it's recommended that you don't modify, and then you can say that this contract is based on the template and has not been modified. So let's go right in and see how to do this. So for now, the repository is simply a Dropbox folder. You don't need to log in to access this folder. In the future, we may have a proprietary file server, but for now, we're using Dropbox. So I want to do a service contract. You could also have your charter here, your investment contract, and previous versions. Now, why do we have a folder called previous versions? Why? Because these contracts, templates, and general conditions will regularly be updated. And you should always use the latest version. But whenever you have some doubts or you want to compare it to the previous version, you will find all the previous versions here. And okay, we need to update this, but basically it will be exactly in the same folder structure. So I'm going to go for the service contract, and I can see that there's two documents. One is a PDF, and this is the GC, so general conditions. So it's a FlexUp service contract, general conditions, FlexUp service contract, special conditions. And you see this is a template. So this is the one that you cannot modify, the general conditions. You should download it for your reference. You should read it, or at least you can read it, but it's recommended that you do read it. And this is the template where you download the Word document, you edit it, and then you will save it, or print it as a PDF, and share it with your counterparty, and you can both sign this document. This document, you don't need to sign it. You don't need to append it to your contract because it's included in your contract by reference. So the contract you're signing is making a direct reference to this version, to this document. So let's go ahead and download these. You don't need to log in or sign up. You can just download it. So let's go ahead and save both. Okay, and then I'm going to start with the PDF. So this is the FlexUp Services contract general conditions. We just call it Services GC, general condition. It's been published by FlexUp on the 5th of September. And this presents the general terms applicable to all service agreements executed under the FlexUp model. So this is designed to be really universal for all services contracts. One size fits all. Now, of course, for some contracts, you need to integrate some specific terms and conditions related to either legal requirements in a given country, or within the services contract, you can have different subcategories with slight adjustments. That's why when you go here, it explains that for certain types of contracts, there can also be additional conditions. So then you would have the general conditions, which apply to all the contracts worldwide. You would have additional conditions which extend the general conditions for a specific country or for a specific context. That would also be a PDF document that you cannot modify, and that is integrated to the contract. It's included in the contract by reference. And then you have the special conditions. So for the service contract, at least for this type of service contract, there is no additional conditions. It's just the general conditions and then the special conditions, which is the other document that we'll look at in a minute. And this explains what's an order. So basically, I sign a contract for, buying potatoes. So I sign my contract. In the contract, we agree on the general terms and the price. And then for each order, I will agree on a specific order, which can be a separate document that you sign, or it can just be an email saying, please send me 3 tons of potatoes by Tuesday. So an order can be included in the contract, or an order can be agreed to by the parties outside the contract after signing the contract, but within the scope of this contract. And each order needs to have a specific confirmation in writing. Could be an email, could be a separate document that you sign. You're pretty free to do it whichever way you want. But you need, in order to refer to this contract, or at the very least, you need to identify the supplier, the client. What are the services to be delivered? So we use the word delivery. And this is a general term that applies to all contracts. So for the services contract, it means that you have rendered your service, you have completed or executed your service. We use the term delivery just because it's a generic term. You need to agree on the price, the remuneration, and this is very specific to FlexUp. You need to agree on the payment structure. How are you going to pay this remuneration? Are you going to pay in cash, 100%, or maybe 50% cash and 50% credits? Or you can also have like 25% flex remuneration and 25% credit remuneration. So if you go into the FlexUp model and you read the FlexUp chart, you will see that there's a lot of options available, but generally we try to keep it very simple. So for a lot of startups, the recommended payment structure would be simply a certain percentage cash, rather base remuneration, more specifically preferred remuneration, and a certain percentage credit. That would be the most recommended approach. And you may need to clarify how the parties confirm an order. So as I said, it could be an email, it could be a signed order contract. How is it delivered? So under which conditions the contractor, the supplier, must execute his services. When he's completed, he needs to say so, and then the client needs to accept that the job was actually done and completed. And if he has any reservation, there's a specific procedure for expressing your reservations. And the order and also the general condition, they can indicate any exceptions or extension to these conditions. So for example, in the general condition, you say that, you must provide your reservations to a job within 7 days. But you could, in the order or in the special condition, say, no, in this case, it will be 14 days, for example. So the general conditions are not, they're not a rule that you must abide by. It's a reference, it's a standard set of general conditions. This standard set of general conditions is cast in stone, so it's the same for everyone, but you can always deviate from it. But when you deviate from it, you need to say so explicitly so that there's no hidden changes. So it's all about transparency. So there is flexibility and freedom, but transparency and simplicity, because if you don't need to introduce very specific terms and conditions, you can just rely on the general one, and that makes everything easier. So the general condition explain, what is the supplier supposed to do? Basically, execute the service and communicate with the client and do his best to do it properly. What are the client obligations? When he needs to pay, he needs to help the supplier do the job by providing information and assistance if required. Then there's a procedure for doing the job and declaring that you finished the job and letting a few days for the client to say whether he accepts the job or not. And if he has reservation, he has 7 days to say so. Invoicing and payment. So when you finish a job, you can send your invoice. And then there's a section here, very important, invoicing for associate contract. So any contract that is subject to a FlexUp charter is called an associate contract. That means that it's not just a classic contract as you would be used to in everyday life. It's a contract that is following the FlexUp model, which means that there is one part of the remuneration which is conditional on the success, the financial performance of the project, right? So as you probably know by now, if you're listening to this tutorial, according to the FlexUp system, the flexible remuneration and the credits, they will only be paid if the project is making profit, if the company that has signed the FlexUp charter is making profits. And in that case, the profits will be shared to all the stakeholders that have credits or flexible remuneration. So that's what we call a conditional payment. So this conditional payment depends on the project's financial performance. And if the project is making profit, then this conditional payment will be paid, right? Now, it's very important that you recognize that since this is a conditional payment, for example, you have 50% firm remuneration and 50% credits. The 50% credits will not be paid at the end of the month. In fact, the conditions for this payment to be due are not met by the end of the month. So you will have to wait until the project is actually profitable for this money to be paid, which means that you will only send your final invoice later on that date when the project has made enough money to pay you the flexible and the credit component. So when you finish your job, you send a normal invoice for the firm payment, the 50% that is firm, cash, and for the other 50%, which is flexible or credit, you don't send an invoice, you send a pro forma invoice, right? You send a pro forma invoice, which we called, so the final invoice, it's called the final accounting document. And the pro forma invoice is called the pro forma accounting document. Now, why do I say accounting document and not invoice? Well, because if you're an employee, it's not an invoice, it's a payslip. And if it's a bank, it's not an invoice, it's an interest payment. And if you're a shareholder, it's not an invoice, it's a dividend payment. Okay, so again, these general conditions are designed to be really universal, to work in any kind of context, for any type of contract. So generally, the service agreement will be with a contractor, so a freelance, a consultant, any kind of professional service. So what you're sending here as a final accounting document is simply your invoice. And for all the conditional payments, when you finish a job, you send your pro forma invoice. And then you wait for the resolution. This is, again, to understand this in detail, you can read the charter, but basically, what is a resolution? A resolution means that at the end of every month, the FlexUp platform, that is still under development, but should be online quite soon, will calculate how much cash is available for that project, and how much the project is supposed to pay in flexible or in credit remuneration. And if there is not enough cash, you just say, sorry, this month we cannot pay anything, or we can only pay 30%. And if there is sufficient cash, the resolution, which is kind of an algorithm, will calculate and say, well, we can pay 100% this month, we can pay 100% of the flexible remuneration. Or if it's the end of the year, it can say, well, we can buy back the credits, we can pay back the credits that have been accumulated over time. So you need to wait for that resolution for the platform to send you a message saying, hey, good news. You know that pro forma accounting document, this pro forma invoice that you sent us last year? Well, now we can pay all of it, or maybe we can pay only $400 out of the total invoice of $800. So now you can send us the final invoice for those $400, okay? So I will make some other videos to explain and show an example, but that's important that you need to understand that for flexible remuneration, so for conditional payments, which include preferred, flex, superflex, credit, and tokens. These are the 5 flexible priorities, whereas firm is the one that's not flexible. This is unconditional. So that's what I would call a payment under the classic system, right? We call it firm. Anything that's not subject to the FlexUp model is firm. Anything that is subject to the FlexUp model is conditional. Okay, sorry, that was a bit long. Then in the general terms and conditions, you have a few words about the duration of the contract and termination. So by default, the contract starts when it's signed and it has an unlimited duration, unless in the specified condition, you explicitly say what is the effective date, so when does it start, and what is the termination date. You need to say what the termination date is in the special condition. Otherwise, it's supposed to be an indefinite contract, at least for recurring orders. For example, I'm hiring someone on a monthly basis. That's a recurring order. So every month is a separate order, and this would go on forever until either party says, let's stop this, and you have a 30 days notice. If it's a single order, like please do a report on this topic, well, of course, when the report is finished, the contract terminates as soon as all the payment obligations are met. And then you have a few general clauses like, breach, remediation, confidentiality. These you would see in any kind of contract: intellectual property, liability, change in circumstances, force majeure, entire agreement, assignment, no mandate. So, even if you're an associate of a project, because you have signed a contract under the FlexUp Charter, so you're considered an associate, that doesn't mean you represent the project, right? You're still either an employee or a contractor. You don't have the mandate to represent the project. Okay, only the legal representative of the company that is holding the project is allowed to represent it. Okay, and then here we just explain what I explained earlier. You can deviate from these general conditions by going to the special conditions contract and adding some exceptions. So things that you don't want to apply. For example, you could say, well, Article 20 doesn't apply, or Article 20 is replaced by this other text, and then you can write another version of this article, right? So you're entirely free to deviate from anything that's in this contract by either changing something that's already in the contract or deleting it, or by adding stuff. You can say, well, we're going to add Article, 27, which says that, if it's a service contract relating to grooming pets, you must only use clean water, something like that. You can put anything you want. Okay, interpretation, blah, blah, blah. So you should always say, what is applicable law for your contract. If you're in the United States, it's going to be US law. Maybe you need to be specific, like US law, Delaware law, the court of, and then the city, to be very specific. If you forget to write what the jurisdiction is, then by default, it will be applied by French law, because I'm based in France, and that's what I put by default. And then by default, everything is in English. Okay, so that's enough for the general conditions. Let's look at the document, FlexUp document. So this is Microsoft Word. Now I have Microsoft Word open on my computer. And I would go through this document using the Microsoft Word version on my desktop. But just to show you that you can still do it if you don't have it, let's use the online version. Okay, so I think you will need to open an account that is free, office.com, launch Word. So you go here, Word, and you can just upload the file. And this is the file that I have just downloaded. Let's see what it says. Okay. So you see that I'm online. I opened the document using this Microsoft Online. And now you can just go through it online. So you don't need a Word, an Office license to actually open at this document. I'm back here on my Word document. So this is a template, and you can see it says based on a template published by FlexUp on 5th of September 2004. So don't change this, so that you know and your counterparty signing this knows where these templates come from. Now, you can also read this. So basically, this is some guidelines on how to use a template. So anything that's in purple with these curly brackets, these are just comments for you to, it's basically guidelines and comments on how to use a template. So you should, once you've read it, you just delete it. So in the final document, you should not have anything in highlight. That's the general rule. Anything in highlight should at the end disappear. So you should have a clean document that's just black and white with no colors. So anything in purple, these are guidelines. You can just read them and then delete them. Anything in yellow, enclosed in square brackets, these are parameters. So that's what you need to update, modify. And then whenever you have in green these angle brackets, these are options. So it's also a kind of parameter, but you can't just write anything. You need to choose one of the options that is offered. Okay, and then in some cases you have one of the options is just like this, which means that you're allowed to not have anything. So blank is a valid option. You can just delete all of it. Anything that is not in one of these three colors, purple, yellow, or green, is a standard text, and you should not change it. If you change it, you need to say it. So you need to say, I've changed it. And anything that you add must be in italics, underlined in italics. Anything you delete should be strike through, like this. Okay, boom, strike through. Or if you want to modify something, like I've added something, you should go here, underline, italic. So it's very clear that you added this, okay? The reason is you need to be transparent with your counterparty so that anything you change from the template, you should say it and it must be very clear what you've changed, okay? So that if you don't change anything, then the other party knows that you just use a template and he doesn't have to worry about anything that you might have changed without telling you. If you don't follow these rules and change things without saying it, then you're basically violating the trust and you're violating the terms of the contract and the license. So once you've finished updating your template, you can delete all of the remaining things that are in color. Okay. Now let's just slow down a bit and think about what we're doing. So we're signing a contract between a supplier and a client. And this contract includes several documents. So one of the documents is the one we are looking at right now. This is the special condition. It's written here. Service contract special condition, services SC. This is this document. You're going to modify it, you're going to sign it. Then in appendix, you need to add a copy of the charter, the special conditions of the charter for the project that this contract is subject to. So let's say you have a pizza shop, and this pizza shop, I like to call it Pizzadoro, just a random name for a pizza place. Pizzadoro has signed a charter. There are several associates. And now I'm signing a contract. I'm the pizza guy. I'm the one in the kitchen doing pizza. I'm the pizzaiolo. And I want to sign a service contract with this Pizzadoro project that I'm an associate of, to say, you know, what I will do, under what conditions, for what price, and which type of remuneration. So I need to say that this contract is related to the charter of the Pizzadoro project. So I need to attach it and make sure we put a date here so that we know which version of the charter we're referring to, because the charter can change from time to time. Then, of course, the services general condition that we just looked at before, that is also part of this contract, as well as the FlexUp charter general condition, which are also part of this contract, and they apply to all the contracts worldwide. So we're not going to look at these two documents in this video. That would be a separate video, but at least you know that these two documents, they are considered to be part of the contract. But we don't add them, so they're not in appendix. You see, the charter SC, that's an appendix, but the other two, they're not an appendix. Why? Well, because first of all, it's quite long, so you don't want to have a contract with 100 pages. And also, it's available online. You can go anytime and download it, and it's the same for everyone. So there's no need to add it specifically to every contract. So it's like if you if you sign maybe a contract for a mobile phone, maybe you will just sign a 1 or 2 page form that is basically saying, you know, if you want the full general terms and conditions, you can go on our website. So that's exactly what I'm saying here. Go on the website if you want to download the latest version. And by the way, this can be updated from time to time. And generally, the new version will apply automatically to your contract unless you object to this change, right? So you have to go in the general conditions and see under which condition you can object to a change. Generally, it's like 90 days. So when there's a new version that's published for the general conditions, it will automatically apply to your contract within 90 days, unless either party, you know, says, no, this new change about how to groom pets, I don't want this change to apply to my contract. And in that case, because I've objected, it will not apply to your contract. So you have this security that anything you sign will be the deal, will be the end deal, if you wish that to be so. But if there's updates and you think that the updates are actually good, will benefit both parties, then you can just take them on board. It's like if you have a software and there's regular updates, you have the option to opt out of the new version and you can stay on the previous version, right? But by default, you always are upgraded to the latest version, just to use a software analogy. So here I'm saying, you know, this document, the present document, is based on a template, and we have not modified it in any way. Now you can see the green angle brackets. So this is an options. So option 1 is we didn't change it in any way. Option 2 is we did change it, and the changes are visible with underline italics and deletions with a strike through, as we discussed before. So you got to pick one of these two. Okay, so now for this example that we're doing together, we're going to say the template has not been modified in any way. You see how I'm doing this? I'm deleting the option I don't want, and I'm also deleting anything in highlight. Now let's save this. And then I'm going to say FlexUp Services contract. And I'm going to call this, for example, I'm Tony, and my client is Pizzadoro. FlexUp Service contract. And then I will put the date. So let's say today is 24, 9, 10. And then I will say so. Fabrizio Nasti. So the way I usually store the names is the name of the supplier, an arrow, the name of the client, which template we used, the date of this version, and who updated this version, right? So it's still a draft, okay? Draft, I'm going to send it to my client, but I'm Tony. Let's say I'm Tony, and I'm preparing a contract for Pizzadoro. Okay. So this is a very high-level summary of what a contract is about. So the supplier provides a service, and the client will pay the remuneration. Okay, fine. So the contract may grant the supplier, me, some securities in the project of the client. Yes. So this project is subject to the charter of the client. So Pizzadoro is the project that has signed the FlexUp charter. And me, as a supplier, I'm getting shares, or tokens rather, in the client's project. So then you delete this and you keep this, right? So this contract may grant supplier, that's me, certain securities, so credits, tokens, etc., in the supplier's project, right? And I can delete this comment. So only using this contract if it's made under the FlexUp model subject to charter. Yes, it is. The charter has been added in Appendix 1. And so I'm good. I can delete this comment. Now, can the project issue stock? And this, yes, you will see this in the charter SC. So you look at the charter SC that you should have access to. And yes, the project can issue stock, which means that any token that I have in the project one day will convert into stock or may convert into stock if there is, conditions for that. So contract label. So let's just say Tony Pizzadoro Services. Date going to be and so that's a nice way to give a name or rather a label to all contracts. So when you refer to this contract somewhere else, you can just copy paste this supplier name, client name, date. All right. Now, who's the supplier and who's the client? So let's say I'm an individual, I'm a freelance, I would just put my name here, date of birth and so on, and then I can delete this. But if I already have a registered company, then I can delete this, and this is the entity name, so I'm an LLC or I'm Inc., and here I'm the client, and then I will do the same here, okay? So you need to fill in each of these fields, and then you replace it, okay? Okay, so in this section, you have to specify if this contract is subject to a charter, and if yes, you need to specify which charter. So we're going to select this option here. So let's say that the project name is called the Pizzadoro project, which belongs to the client. So the client is the one that has adopted the FlexUp charter. And so as a supplier, I would be getting equity in the client. The project is a business account because it's been incorporated as a legal entity. And this information, you will find it in the FlexUp charter, a special condition which is attached to this contract. But to be absolutely clear, we also put it here. And I can explain in a separate video what this means. But basically, this means that the client is a legal entity and the project is the same as the client, basically. There's no difference between the project and the client. Everything that the client does is part of the project and vice versa. So all or part of the remuneration under this contract is conditional to the profitability of the project as per the FlexUp model. The client is the project's owner, right? And is known as the holder. That's the specific terminology for the charter. Now you may ask, why all these strange terms? Well, because the charter, the general condition, is designed to work for any type of situation, including situation where you could have a sub-project which belongs to a grouping, which is not a legal entity, but which has several owners or constituents that each can be individuals or legal entities. So because the FlexUp model is designed to work for any kind of situation, we have to introduce some strange terms that may be unfamiliar, but we still try to make it simple enough to understand that even if you didn't read the whole charter and you're not a legal expert, you can still understand. So the client is the project owner, and the client is the one that is holding the project. So it owns the project, it holds the project. And then the supplier, so me, Tony, I'm an associate of the project. That means that I'm taking some risk on the project and I will get some of the profits if the project is successful. And this contract is an associate contract. Okay. So currency symbol and currency name. So it's going to be dollar, US dollars. And what is the jurisdiction? Well, let's say the commercial court of Delaware. United States. Okay, and of course I can delete all these brackets. Remove the color. Remove the italics. Okay, now it looks good. Services. So I need to explain what are the services, right? So I'm going to be, yeah, basically, I don't know, cooking services for the pizzeria. Of course, you need to be more specific. I'm just giving an example here, very simple, right? So it's going to be a recurring contract. I'm going to be working full time forever. It enters into effect. Let's say that I've already started working and I forgot to sign the contract. So a few weeks later, I finally remembered that I should sign a contract. So I will put, for example, retroactively on the 1st of July 2024. So it's never too late to write a contract. The contract has an indefinite duration. Okay, so I'm going to work as long as, things work out. So I don't have a duration. I don't have a termination date. So I go for option 1. So whenever you see green, you know that there's 2 options at least. You need to select one. So the contract has an indefinite duration following the terms detailed in the service GC. We saw that before. The contract, so there's 3 options here, right? So is this a single order? No, it's not a single order. Is this a framework and then each order will be signed separately? No, not this. This is a recurring order, monthly order. Yep, that's it. Easy, monthly order. So basically, I'm going to work every month. Every month is a separate contract. Every month is a separate order. And I can send my invoice on a monthly basis. So new orders automatically confirmed on a monthly basis. So for recurring order, you see, it's already there. So I could have like special kind of conditions. I can write whatever I want, right? So it's in yellow. It means I can write whatever I want. I can set my own rules, but just to make it simple, the template give me some option. So I'll pick the example for a monthly recurring order, and I will just review it because this is not standard text. This is a parameter. So I'm allowed to change it. It's written here, right? If it's a parameter, it's yellow. Anything between yellow brackets, I can write whatever I want. So this had a yellow bracket. So new orders are automatically confirmed on a monthly basis starting on the effective date, unless each party informs to suspend automatic renewal. Okay. Each month, the amount of work should be jointly determined. So this is basically super flexible, right? You start working every month. You basically work as agreed, and if either party wants to change the working arrangement, this can be done flexibly. Okay, super flexible. You can have a more restrictive process. You can say, well, it must be, I don't know, in writing, and or you can write whatever you want. right? So just again, the philosophy of FlexUp does not aim to create a rigid structure. It just aims to simplify things and give you default options that you can select or you can deviate from. Order delivery. So for a recurring order, so the duration and intensity. So you could have a dynamic. So this is, let's say that we don't know how this pizzeria will operate, and maybe there will be other cooks. So how much I'm supposed to work every month? Well, we just agree, from time to time we can change, right? We could say it's estimated. I probably work 20 hours a week with a minimum of 10 hours per week, for example. I can write whatever I want here. So this is just an example. Again, you see that it's a yellow between brackets, square brackets, so it's a parameter. I can write whatever I want, but this is an example, and I just use the example. Okay. So I'm going to send my timesheet on a monthly basis, right? At the end of each month, breakdown of the time spent. So this is my timesheet. And the client is tacit. So I send my timesheet. I explain what I did. I mean, here it's going to be pretty easy. Yeah, it's every day. I'm just making pizzas. And if there was any objection, the client has 7 days to tell me, on that day you didn't come, or on that day you didn't spend 5 hours as you say, but you only spent 2 hours because you went to the doctor, something like that. So remuneration, okay, this is the juicy part. So I can say, either it's a fixed price, this only works for a single order, or we have a fixed hourly rate. Let's say, my wage is $15 an hour, or maybe if I'm a lawyer, I'm going to charge $100 or more. You could agree on a remuneration that is not per hour. It could be, a percentage of the sales that I generate if I'm an agent or a salesman. It could be, maybe I'm a gardener and I'm mowing the lawn, and it could be, either $500 for the job, or it could be $3 per acre. You could just whatever you want. Again, remuneration condition, you can see here, you can write whatever you want. Completely free to write whatever you want. But these are just some examples. Now, there's a very creative payment system that is called FlexAdjust. It's been developed by FlexUp as well. This is basically a system where, if you say, look, I want to work with you, but I don't know how much I'm going to work. Maybe I only work a few hours and then it's finished. We don't work together ever again. Or maybe I work a few hours a week for a few months and then you don't need me again anymore. Or this is going to be full time for the next 12 months. And initially, you don't know how much you're going to work. So it's difficult to have a fixed price, and it's difficult to have a fixed hourly rate, because maybe if you work only a few hours, you expect a very high hourly rate. But if you work on a full-time basis, this hourly rate should decline. So this is the case in startups where people start working, but they don't know initially how long the collaboration will last and what will be the intensity of this collaboration. So you want to adopt a flexible remuneration structure. And this is exactly what the FlexAdjust model does. There is documentation on the FlexAdjust. There will be another video explaining it. But just to summarize, you need to basically agree. You need to say, what is your standard rate? So I could say, look, I'm a lawyer or I'm an accountant. Usually I do small jobs for my clients and I charge a very high rate. My standard rate is $100 an hour for a 10-hour job. And if you're gonna hire me for much more than 10 hours, this rate is gonna go down, and it's gonna go down by a factor of 0.7 every time the number of hours increases by a factor of 10. So it's $100 for 10 hours, but if I work 100 hours, then it drops to $70 an hour. So the more you work, the more your hourly rate goes down. But if you do a very small job, like only a few hours, like only 1 hour, then instead of multiply by 0.7, you divide by 0.7, and 1 hour would be $140. So you can just say, you know, my reference price is this for, I don't know, you could say, let's say I'm going to work for 12 months at a rate of maybe 10 hours per month. I'm just a consultant. I'm just doing a few pizzas every day, and then I'm going to train the other staff members to do pizzas. Okay. So what's 12 months? That's 10 hours a day. That's 120 hours. That's my standard rate. Okay. And then I put a minimum and a maximum rate. Now, this is not compulsory, but it's a good practice to have some limits. And then you can also introduce a target quantity. Say, look, I expect that I would at least over the next 12 months, at least I'm going to ask you to work 50 hours. It's not an obligation. It's not a minimum quantity. It's not a maximum. It's a target. And if you use a target, that means that the price for that target applies automatically from day one. And there will be a correction at the end of the year with a small penalty if you're below the target, but it's not a huge penalty. So if you expect that you're going to consume a lot, but the first order or the first month is quite small, you want to avoid a super high price on the first month. So you can give a target so that you benefit from the lower price initially, immediately, even before you reach the target quantity. It can be quite a smart way to do this. So I will not do the whole contract now with you because this is just an example. It's kind of a tutorial, but I will leave this here, right? So I will just remove this. So I'm going to keep a minimum. I'm going to keep a maximum. I'm going to adjust my rates. And then I will remove all the colors. I remove all of this, right? So that means that every order and every time you send an invoice or a pro forma invoice, you will have to calculate this. The FlexUp platform will introduce a calculator where you can put this and it will automatically calculate everything for you. In the meantime, you just have to calculate it yourself using some of the Excel templates that we will also make available. So you can use an Excel template to do the calculation, and in the future, it will be done via the FlexUp app. Payment structure. So, you know, I'm a co-founder of this pizzeria. I know that we're just starting. The pizzeria doesn't have any cash. So I'm going to be paid 100% as in credits. And it's now it's named standard, not simple. So you could have like a mix of preferred, flex, and so on. But I'm just going to go for 100% credit. So when the project is making money, I will be paid. In the meantime, I'm just accumulating credits in the project. And of course, if I get credits, I also get tokens. So for every $100 of credits, I get an additional $80 of tokens. And this also it will be explained in a separate video, but you need to say basically how you're going to get paid. Now, in this contract, there are no exceptions. So I'm just following the plain vanilla terms and conditions of the general conditions. There are no extensions. Oops, sorry, I need to say that there are no extensions. Et voila, that's it. I put my name of the client. So I still need to clean up a few things, but as you see, once I remove all the comments and all, at the end, there should be no more colors, there should be no more brackets. So I still need to clean up a few things. I can do this offline, but you see that by the time you finish, this should be a 3-page contract. Very simple. And what does it say? Well, you know, there's a few words to explain how the contract is structured. That's important, right? This is the first Article 1. What is the contract? What's in the contract? Which are the documents that you're supposed to refer to? Very high level, what are the obligations of each party? But of course, this is detailed in the general conditions. And also it's detailed here because we explain the services, how we confirm the order, and then the remuneration. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.